Hi, this is Ralph Zuranski. I'm on the phone with Alex Mandossian, and Alex is one of the best copywriters, speakers, and teleseminar and traffic conversion consultants in the internet industry today. My first exposure to Alex was when I discovered his Marketing with Postcards course that I purchased for a marketing program for an alternative medicine clinic in Dallas. I realized that using postcards to contact patients was the least expensive way to keep in touch. Alex is also the co-founder of the Ask database, audio generator, and instant video generator, as well as being one of the first online pioneers to develop and use audio postcards, video postcards, and online surveys to capture more sales and profits faster, better, and with less effort. These services are an important part of the In Search of Heroes program because people want to listen to and see the interviews of the heroes. Alex co-created the Ask database program with Frank Deardiff number 3. This is an incredibly valuable service because it allows everyone to ask questions that are important to them. Then we provided them with the information they really want. It takes advantage of the Socratic method of asking questions. Alex has created the website Access to Leaders that provides the secret wisdom of the greatest marketing geniuses in the world. The In Search of Heroes program will have a similar format for all the different Heroes programs. The initial programs will be the In Search of Heroes on the Internet, which we're doing now, and then the In Search of Heroes in Alternative Medicine that I've been working on for about 5 years. Alex, how are you doing today?
Well, Ralph, I'm doing very well, and I love listening to that introduction because it's just an edification of some of the hard work that I've gone through over the years, so I appreciate that very much from you.
Well, I know you're definitely one of the leaders, and I have to say that we bonded the first time I bought a product from you, and you were the first person I ever bought anything on the Internet that actually called me up to establish a personal relationship.
Yeah, well, the topic today is copywriting, but it really is all about communication, and what increases intensity of communication, which is what we want. We want to intensify communication, so there's a higher level of marketing intimacy, just like there would be intimacy in any relationship. What does that is as many multi-method forms of communication as possible, whether it's by fax, whether it's by voice broadcast, whether it's by live phone call like we did, or by email, by snail mail. As many multiple methods as possible, you become more and more relevant. And, of course, the oxygen that feeds blood and life into that whole process is copywriting.
The most amazing thing about your techniques and just how you've evolved over the last 3 years that I've known you is your ability to build a sense of community using all the different forms of communication that people prefer and that they actually depend upon. With your instant video generator, your audio generator, using the Socratic method of asking questions, I mean, that's just something that comes from centuries of the great masters in talking about communication.
Well, there's no question, and it's not like I've created anything, really. I've just observed and applied what others have done, and I stand on their shoulders, just as Socrates or any other of the great marketing minds that are both living and no longer living. And so just by observing the simple tactics that are principle-centered over the centuries that have worked, such as the Socratic method, which I've rebranded as the Ask methodology, we can take something as difficult as writing copy and make it as simple as asking a question, finding out what those questions are, getting answers to the questions, and then feeding it back to the people who ask the questions and saying, are these the answers you're looking for? If the answer is yes, sign up for this teleseminar. If the answer is yes, buy this ebook. If the answer is yes, buy this audio program. If the answer is yes, how about giving a gift to this particular fundraiser, so on and so forth. So the key is communication, and as with all great copywriters, all it takes is a little bit of research. I know there's a story of David Ogilvy, who had the Rolls-Royce account. David, of course, was one of the greatest copywriters and marketers of all time. Ogilvy and Mather was on Madison Avenue. He was visiting the Rolls-Royce factory in England, and he went up to one of the engineers and he said, "So what's so great about this Rolls-Royce?" I'm not sure if that's what he said, but that's how the story goes. And the engineer said, "Mr. Ogilvy, at 60 miles an hour, the loudest noise that comes from this Rolls-Royce is from the clock inside." And that's, of course, the clock in the passenger seat area. And so that headline ended up becoming one of the greatest and biggest winning headlines of all time, at least in his business. At 60 miles an hour, the loudest sound that comes from this Rolls Royce is from the clock. And I'm paraphrasing, but that's the essence of it. And it didn't come from David Ogilvy's head, although he was a great copywriter. It came from the head of the engineer who was in the trenches. So for any copywriter or any marketer, by Socratically creating a dialogue. A great copywriter is not someone who does monologues, okay? Monologues don't work. Monologues are, it's like being a dysfunctional parent. All you do is tell. A dialogue is where you become more functional because you're dialoguing. They're two people. It's a dyad. And you are engaging in a flow that will actually change form based on what the questions and answers are. So that's what makes good copywriters great. If you know how to dialogue, then you got about 80 or 90% of what you need to become a great money-making copywriter.
That's the reason why I chose the Ask database as a foundational part of the In Search of Heroes program, because if kids learn how to ask the questions and take the time to listen to the answers, boy, they're going to be so much farther ahead of the curve in anything that they do, because I think that's probably the greatest skill ever, is to ask the right questions and then utilize the information that you receive.
Well, if you think about it, Ralph, as a child when we're growing up, sometime around 5 years of age, we keep asking up until that point, when we learn how to talk, which is about age 2.5, up until about age 5, we keep asking one question. One question. It's a 3-letter word, begins with a W. You know what that question is?
Why?
Why? Why does the sun come up? Dad, why do I have to go to bed? Why do I have to stop watching Power Rangers? Why does Mom go shopping 3 times a week? Why do you work so much? Why? And then at some point, a parent becomes impatient. It's not their fault. They're living life like anybody else. And they answer in this way. I mean, this is what happened to me as a kid growing up. It wasn't my mom or dad's fault. It just happened. They probably heard it. Their grandparents probably heard it, and so on and so forth. But the parent says, because I said so. Because I said so. Because I said so. And at that point, the child breaks down, and the inquisition machine, or the questioning machine, no longer is functional. And I believe that the child's asking machine shuts down around age 5 or 5.5 and becomes tell-oriented. If the child becomes an adult, hopefully, and is a teacher, then they become tell-oriented. If they're a president or a CEO of a company, they become tell-oriented. If they become one of the directors of a company or a foundation, they become tell-oriented. It has nothing to do with their personality. It has everything to do with their behavior. And then on the latter part of the arc of their life, as they grow older and they come closer to their final breath, they start asking again because they reach a level of humility. And adulthood is this like bell curve. You start with asking questions as a child, you tell most of your life, and then you ask questions again. Why do I have to die? Why am I sick? So on and so forth. And in looking at this, I asked myself, why do I have to stop asking why? Mm-hmm. Why can't I ask why? And so I just reawakened my asking machine. Mm-hmm. And frankly, it brought back a relationship with my own parents. Mm-hmm. I recommend it to anyone just on an emotional or personal level. But as a marketer, it took me from good to great because I went from tell orientation to ask orientation. It made me a far better copywriter. My emails get opened. My subject lines get opened. A lot of times I just ask questions, and mm-hmm. people respond to it. And I have a lot of people on my email list just to spy on what I do because they want to grab some of the ideas that I come up with, which are not even my ideas. They're ask related. So I've learned to use the question mark more than the exclamation point for selfish reasons, not for benevolent reasons. I guess it's a combination of both. But selfishly, I like to make more money, for myself and my family. And mm-hmm. asking gets me there. I become a better copywriter, and I get more done, and I make more money faster, better, and with less effort.
I think that's the power of the In Search of Heroes program, is that we're asking people questions, profound questions that sometimes you can't imagine, just the incredible nuggets of truth that pop out of people's brains. So let me go ahead and ask you a few. What is your definition of heroism? The definition of heroism to me is leading from behind.
leading from behind. Let me give you some examples. A mother leads from behind. A quarterback leads from behind. A great general leads from behind. A president or a prime minister leads from behind. Gandhi led from behind. Jesus led from behind. Baal Shem Tov led from behind. I don't care what spiritual influence you've ever had in your life, whether it's Muhammad or Confucius or anyone else, any tradition, the great leaders, the great heroes, who are leaders in my view, always lead from behind. And sometimes their leadership quality is anonymous and sometimes not. But I believe that is the best definition, is someone who leads from behind and does it for the sake of leadership and not for the sake of gaining notoriety.
You've had some pretty major ups and downs in your life. Did you ever create a secret hero in your mind that helped you deal with life's difficulties?
Well, like Napoleon Hill, I had many heroes. Usually ones and the heroes that I had were people who had faced their own adversity. For example, the Rothschilds. I mean, here's a family who grew up in the Jewish ghetto, and all of a sudden they became millionaires and then multi-billionaires because they never gave up. There's that famous speech that Winston Churchill once uttered, which was, "Never, ever give up." And it was at a commencement ceremony, I believe at Harvard or Yale, I forget which university, but that's all he said. And that was the key to life for him. That was the key to his success. And Winston Churchill was a great, and is still a great example for me. Abraham Lincoln, there's another leader from behind. I mean, what he did for this country, abolishing slavery, and having the leadership quality of humility. You know, great leader. Stephen Covey, a great example. I mean, here's a person who was nothing more than an obscure professor at Brigham Young University, and look what he did, because his teachings were so principle-centered that people embraced them and became a multimillionaire just teaching as an academic, not even as a marketer, but as an academic. And, you know, he really had two major reasons for that. I believe Stephen M.R. Covey, his eldest son, had a lot of influence with that. And my good friend Greg Link, who was Stephen Covey Sr., his handler, had a lot to do with it. And these are leaders who are alive and are heroes from me because, you know, they're there and they're people I can count on. Mark Victor Hansen is a hero. You know, some people look at him and saying, you know, in doing business with him, they go, "Wow, he has so many ideas. Does he have marketing ADD? You know?" And I don't know if he does or doesn't, but I know he is one of the most brilliant minds I personally know and have met because there's so many ideas that flood through his mind. He's a starter, and what he needs is a finisher, and that's what Jack Canfield is and always has been. And Jack Canfield is another hero of mine because they get stuff done. So there are these teams of leaders. Like, for example, I'm a finisher, and Armin Morin is a starter. And, you know, Armin is a hero, even though he's a colleague. So they don't have to be no longer with us. These people can be alive and well and still be heroes, you know, in your eyes because of the role they play, you know, in your life. Sometimes a hero has hero qualities that you don't know about, and once you observe it, you know, quietly, then you say, "Wow, I really like this guy." I had the chance and the good fortune to speak on the platform with T. Harv Eker. And T. Harv Eker gets so many people on the platform, you know, in the audience. I mean, 2,500, 3,000 people. This particular event had about 600 people, and it was a small event for him. And it was my first event with Harv, and so I didn't really know his philosophies and what he really thought, you know, behind the curtain. And I was just astonished at the love he has for his audience. He would call me up and he said, "Are they getting it? Are they getting it? You know, what are they missing? What's the disconnect? You know, what can we do to improve this?" And he's telling me this, you know, yeah. As I'm speaking, I'm thinking, man, I wish I could be broadcasting this, and I am right now. So Harv, if you're listening, I hope you're smiling, because I love the man that you are. You really care about your students and your colleagues, and I really appreciate and admire that. So these are some of the people in my life. There are many more who I haven't. That's my cell phone in the back. There's many more who I haven't mentioned, but you know, like Les Brown and Brian Tracy, Joe Polish. Joe Polish is one of my heroes. He's younger than I am. He shares my wife's birthday to the day. Both parents, both mothers, were giving birth the same day.
Wow.
In history. And, I don't know what that's about, but what I do know that's most important to me is Joe's a loyal friend, and he's a hero. And loyalty has a lot to do with being a hero to me. Predictability. Mm-hmm. And trust. See, trust to me is about predictability. Mm-hmm. And this is not a segue. This, I believe, has a lot of relevance. If there's a dog that I know will bite my hand, I trust that dog because I can predict the dog will bite. So I don't put my hand in the vicinity of the dog's mouth. If I can trust that the dog will not bite me and will lick my hand, then I pet the dog. And the dog will get my petting on, underneath, his or her mouth, or maybe, tapping on his or her head. Because I trust the dog. The dog is predictable. But if I cannot predict the dog, if the dog bites and if the dog licks, and I don't even know if that's going to happen or not, then I don't trust the dog. I have a distrust for that dog. There's no judgment. I just distrust the dog because the dog is no longer predictable. So I believe predictability creates and espouses trust. And that's what a great leader is. A great leader is someone you can trust because they are predictable. If someone is chronically late, then I trust them. That they're going to be chronically late, and I show up 15 to 20 minutes late. Mm-hmm. You see? So you adapt. And so I kind of, get upset, and it gets on my nerves when I hear people about judging trust. Like, I don't trust him, and I say, why? Because, he's not a good person, or she's not a good person, or... Well, trust is about predictability. It has nothing to do with good or bad, in my view. Mm-hmm. So I hope that nugget means a lot to others, because it lends leading a cleaner life, and you'll get along with more people who are chronically late and who are predictable, only they're predictable in different ways.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is an interesting...
You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I do, and this is a good question to ask at this time, is what is your perspective on goodness, ethics, moral behavior, and personal integrity?
Goodness, ethics, and moral behavior, to me, is predictability. Mm-hmm. Predictability. If I can predict you, then I trust you. If you maintain your agreements, if you live within integrity, which to me just means keeping your agreements. There are no small agreements. There are no small commitments, Yeah. If you maintain those, then that to me is what it's all about. That is what, makes a relationship worthwhile. I can predict, and therefore I can trust.
Mm-hmm. Well, what are the principles you're willing to sacrifice your life for, and not so much in the idea of what are you willing to die for, but what are the principles that you're willing to dedicate your life for? For me, the people I trust and love the most are, those are the members of my family. So Gabriel, Brianna, my 2 kids, and my wife. It wasn't always that way. I've fallen from grace and have not, given them the attention that they deserve. In fact, I would have probably lost my marriage if I stayed in New York and stay the workaholic that I was. I was going to say alcoholic, but workaholism is probably worse. And so, in looking at my relationships, my family's most important because they've allowed me, and Amy, my wife, has taught me, has coached me to live a certain life where lifestyle is important. I'd like to take one week vacation every quarter, which is every 3 weeks. That is not easy to do. Yeah.
Okay, sorry, every 3 months. Every 3 months I take off 1 week. So for every 12 weeks, that's 1 week off. That is not easy, but, I've been pulling it off. Mm-hmm. And do I work hard? Yeah. I mean, some days I work 6 hours a day. Today I'm working 4 hours a day. Last week I was preparing for a seminar. I was working 20-hour days to prepare for it because I was given the curriculum last minute, so I was working around the clock to get, how I prepare my seminars. There are handouts and things, and so I wanted to make sure everything was set, and so sometimes you got to power. So for me, since family is most important, I try to revolve everything around them. Mm-hmm. 7 a.m., my son, Gabriel, comes through the door. 7:10, my daughter, Brianna, comes through the door. And whether I'm on the phone or not, they take precedence. And it happened this morning. Someone called me at 7, between 7 and 8. Those are not prime time hours for me. My kids came through, and I excused myself from the phone. I came back to my office chair, and they sat on my knee, and they were making noise in the background as I was talking. Now, if the person on the other end had a problem with that, then I'm willing to sacrifice that relationship. Mm-hmm. Because it's not like I have a problem with them. I totally respect them having a problem with that, but I got to pick, what's most important. Another thing where I will choose, and I'll die for, is, the sense of loyalty for friends and colleagues. I mean, I believe a deal is easy to find. A good relationship is not. Finding someone with common sense and loyalty, that's the top 1 percentile. And so looking for this and hunting for it, and I have, and I feel like I have a great team of people that have made the cut for me, and I got to stick to my agreements, otherwise, I'm hypocritical in my pleasures if I'm not maintaining what I'm looking for. I will give up a deal if it means sacrificing a relationship. I will not do a deal if it's going to hurt a relationship. I've gone as far as telling someone that I'm going into competition with them, unbeknownst. I didn't know that they were in the deal. And I told them, hey, I'm going to do this. Do you have a problem with it? They said, yeah, I do have a problem with it. And I've stopped. And they went on to make a lot of money, and I didn't. And there have been situations where, they went into competition with me after they knew that I was doing what I was doing, and they didn't ask me. And they end up making a lot of money as a result of the sweat off my back. But you know what? It's not a conditional thing when I'm calling them and saying I'm going into competition with you, or we're doing the same thing. Do you mind? They're giving me, yeah, I do mind, and it's not a conditional, okay, I'll stop if you never do this to me. It's an unconditional. Those are my judgments, those are my rules, not their rules. And that's where I think people get into trouble. They feel that, their mores, their rules, their judgments should be other people's judgments. So, in the case where people knock you off, when you have a product idea or you have a software tool idea or distribution idea, that's fine if they feel that that's fair, And you can battle that naturally. If you're a better marketer, you can battle it. I do it all the time. However, just because you went to them and said, hey, this is what I'm doing, and you were being, let's call it authentic, even though that may be a bad word, and you told them in advance, okay, this is what I'm doing, do you have a problem with it? That's your rule if that's your rule. That happens to be mine. So I'm willing to sacrifice profitable deals for relationships, not because I think that the relationships are so important. I mean, I do, but not because of that. Just because if I know the way I am, and I know that if I really, really do well in that deal, I'm not going to feel good about it. There's going to be a little trace of me saying, oh, I feel kind of guilty. And so selfishly, I don't want to feel that guilt. So I'm not doing it for them.
Yeah.
I'm doing it for me. And that may surprise some people listening right now, but, that's the way it is. And it's important to me to live that way because it's just a little bit cleaner and easier to live.
You've had some really low points in your life. I know you shared some from the platform. How did you overcome those obstacles that faced you and have victory over the problems you were dealing with at that time?
Well, Ralph, I'm very lucky. I've only had one really low point, and it happened early in my life. I was age 25, and I lost everything, which in this case was a little over $250,000. And the way I overcame that was simple. I read biographies of other self-made millionaires and billionaires. And the one pattern that keeps reoccurring over and over and over again is that they had it, they lost it, and they got it back again. And usually it happens 2 or 3 times. I've been very fortunate it's only happened once. So my low point, other than, death in the family of people I absolutely loved, which is a natural thing to occur, I had one low point, financially. It happened in 1989, 1988, that time frame. And I overcame it. It took about 3 years to overcome emotionally, 6 years to overcome financially, and I believe I'm a better business person as a result of it. And if I see it happening to someone else, I'm usually one of the first to stick my hand out because I remember the pain and the humiliation of the whole process.
Yeah. What is the dream or vision that sets the course of your life?
Well, the dream or vision for me is to maintain humility despite my success. It is really easy to get cocky in this business, and I often do. And my wife, Amy, reminds me that I'm a monkey just like everybody else. And maintaining that level of humility, I mean true humility, not false humility. I mean true humility, boundary-based humility. That is the biggest challenge that I face every single day as success comes to me more and more. And success is momentum-based. I mean, it's very funny, but, it accelerates. Success accelerates. And so as it's accelerating for me right now, I feel as though I deserve it. I am grateful for the people who assisted me to get here. I've had people who feel they're absolutely responsible to be the only ones who got me here, and I don't necessarily disagree with them, but I like to give credit where credit is due. There are many people who were involved, and I've done my part too. My brand has been to deliver content. It's difficult for anyone to say after listening to me speak that I don't deliver content. I've had a commitment to content. I know what content feels like. I know what it sounds like. I've always wanted to hear it from others who taught me, and so I do my absolute best. And I think I do meet that criteria I've set for myself to deliver and over-deliver on content. And so as long as I continue to do that and maintain humility and not get cocky and arrogant about it, then I think my family will do well, and I think I'll do well.
How important is it to take a positive view of setbacks, misfortunes, and mistakes?
I think a positive view is important, but a positive view is judgment. I think a realistic view or an accountable view is more like the language I would use. Accountability is acceptance. In any 12-step program, recovering from any disease always starts with acceptance. Okay, it is a power greater than yourself is going to make these things happen in your life. And it doesn't have to be recovering from any ism, whether it's workaholism or overeating or alcoholism or drug addiction or any kind of ism that's out there. What's important is in looking at how to have an outlook on what's happening in your life, towards the road to success, which I'm assuming everyone wants. It's looking at it from an accountable point of view. And the only beef I have with people who teach self-improvement and personal development is many times their students are almost urged to be unrealistic. They're shooting for the moon when they should really be shooting for the clouds. Okay? And what ends up happening is they overcharge on their credit cards because they have these delusions of grandeur, and they get into deeper and deeper doo-doo. And it's not necessary. What's necessary is to know, hey, this is my budget. Instead of saying I can't afford it, you can say it's not in my budget. And you can move on and be very realistic. And I believe in spending 100% of what I make. I just spend in my investment account. I spend in my play account. I spend into my expense account, and so on and so forth. So I've manipulated my mind so that it seems good and it feels good, and I just reword things. So accountability is what I look at, and knowing where I'm at. That's the single most important thing. If you're on a plane, if you crash in the middle of the Sahara Desert, if you're the only survivor, and once you get the food and the water to survive, the single most important thing you need to know, if you're going to Cairo and you're trying to make it, and live on the week or 2 weeks worth of water and food that you have as the only survivor, is you got to know where you're at. You got to know where you're at, because if you're running east looking for a sunset, you got a big problem.
That's so true, isn't it? Well, we've had some different perspectives from the different heroes on the concept of optimism. What's your concept of optimism? Well, optimism to me is that there is hope. If you look at the great spiritual leaders in history, Confucius, Muhammad, Moses, Jesus, or some of the more contemporary spiritual leaders, even those who have not had any spiritual basis and have had a negative impact on society, through war and toil, they all sell the same thing. They are promoting one thing. It's a 4-letter word, and it's called hope. They sell hope. So to me, optimism is about hope. And hope is sold in various different ways. But hoping that there is a better way leads to something else, which is expectation. So I believe the lowest level is having hope. That's the starting point. And then it goes to expectation. Now, when I ask you to hope to have something, that is a whole different frame of mind than expecting to get it.
But it has to start with hope. It has to start with the seed of hope, and then at least the expectation. So that to me is optimism, going from hope to expectation to having an optimistic point of view.
A lot of people have great ideas, but a lot of people never get anywhere with those ideas. Does it take courage to pursue new ideas?
Well, courage, as Mark Twain or Sam Clemens said, is not the absence of fear. Courage is mastery of fear. It's resistance to fear. You must be fearful, otherwise you won't be self-preserving. So if courage means resistance to fear or mastery of fear, as I believe it is, then bottom line is it does take courage. You have fear, and you just beat the fear that you have. Okay, now, let's say, for example, I made a mistake during this interview, and I'm just going to tell on myself. You called me, and I forgot to put the call waiting on hold. Okay, now I'm going to do it right now so that we don't have any more interruption. When I call someone, I usually do it, but I didn't do it when you called me because I just forgot. And then we have these little interruptions, okay? Now, by stating that, I didn't put the call waiting on hold, so we've had a few interruptions. You've heard the beeps. I am now telling on myself. And by telling on myself, that makes me human. And somehow, I think it breeds more trust. Mm-hmm. Now, I didn't do it on purpose so I could state it, but here's an opportunity, and I'm taking advantage of it. And it allows me to exhibit humility, because I'm a little bit ashamed that this is happening, because this is exactly what I teach people not to do during a call, right? Hang on one second. Okay, so what I did is I pressed the flash button, I pressed star 70, and we won't have any more interruptions. So I saw the problem, I took accountability, and I just solved it. Mm-hmm. So from hope to expectation to optimism in real time. How's that?
Well, that's great. Well, how much are people willing to experience discomfort in the pursuit of their dreams? I know that anybody that wants to get anywhere, that it isn't comfortable. They have to make changes in their lives, especially the people in their lives don't really want them to change. And if anybody wants to get anywhere, there is a certain amount of discomfort. How did you deal with that?
Well, to me, discomfort is delayed gratification, and those two words are the key to success. Delayed gratification. If you can accept delayed gratification, you will be successful. Think about the concept of compounded interest. It's just as easy to make $1 and compound the interest so that you have $2 as it is to go from $1 million to $2 million. It's just doubling your investment. However, going from $1 to $2 is not as significant as going from $1 million to $2 million. Now, you had to delay some gratification to get to $1 million in most cases, right? Because, to double your net worth, if you have $1,000 net worth, then you can make $2,000, and then from $2,000 to 4 to 8 to 16, and then you're going to go from $100,000 to 200, 200 to 4, 400 to 800, and then finally you can get to 1.6 million. But how long does it take for you to double your net worth? It requires delayed gratification. Now, here's what's awesome. Because there's a certain standard of living, if you wait a few years, sometimes a dozen years, sometimes 3 years. It took me about 3.5 years to become a multimillionaire. I'm very fortunate. But some people it may take 10 or 20 years. Some people it may take 40 years. It doesn't matter. Once you reach millionaire status, you can have twice as much money, which is the same jump from $1 to $2 or $10 to $20 in the same time period. But you will have an extra $1 million. Mm-hmm. It required delayed gratification for that to happen. Now, if you can have that accepted in your life, then you will be successful. No question. That's one of the traits I have noticed amongst multimillionaires and billionaires. They are willing to deal with a delayed gratification as they ascend the hill of prosperity.
Well, do you feel that those people have to believe in their dreams before they can become reality?
The only way you can delay gratification is to have the power of belief working for you. See, what is faith? Faith or belief is not knowing that you're going to get from point A to point B. I refuse to believe that that's the definition of faith or having a belief. It's not knowing you're going to get from point A to point B. It's just simply knowing that there is a point B, that it exists. Mm-hmm. That's what faith or belief is. There's just simply a point B. When I'll get to it, who knows? And the path that is the quickest is not a straight line. A straight line never works. You know, the path is the shortest distance between 2 points is not a straight line. That's not the way the universe works. It's the path of least resistance. And that may be circuitous, it may be going around a mountain, but the bottom line is you get to it because it's the least resistant. And for me, my belief in something means, okay, how can I make my first dollar the fastest? Okay, my good friend and mentor and colleague and business friend and partner, John Reese, says, you know, how do you make your first dollar? Well, for me, it's not only making your first dollar, it's making your first dollar the fastest possible way, because that is a feedback system. It's giving you evidence that what you're doing works. So work on that. Don't work on the biggest idea you have. Work on your first dollar, and you'll be amazed at how much more belief and faith you have in yourself.
Everybody has fears and doubts about attaining their dreams or just making any changes in their lives. What's the best way, do you feel, to overcome doubts and fears?
Model those who have also had shortcomings in their life and have had fears and doubts. Interview them. Find out how they overcame it. They have a recipe for success. They have a recipe for overcoming failure. They find for themselves that fail as fast as you can is good, and fail slowly is bad. So interview people who have failed, interview people, and study people who have had success. You will find lots of failure along the way.
Well, is there anybody that helps give you the willpower to change things in your life for the better?
My wife is the biggest influence in my life. She just is. I mean, I'm closest to her. I live with her. She has been very significant in raising our kids, and so I admire her. And if you know me, or if you don't know me, if you get to know me, you know that that's not fluff. I'm not saying this for In Search of Heroes benefit or for Ralph Zuranski's benefit. That's just the truth, and nothing is persuasive as the truth. So I'm fortunate enough to have what I want and want what I have, which to me is the definition of happiness. And she's the one I look up to most because she taught me how to be truly intimate with others. I mean, you can love someone, you can communicate well, but there are a lot of people out there with intimacy issues, you know, both in marketing and in personal life. And she taught me how to really, really, really want what I have and to really be intimate with myself as well as others. So she's the one I look up to.
Well, how important is it to readily forgive those that upset, offend, and oppose you?
Well, when you forgive someone, you're not doing it for their benefit, in my view. You're doing it for yours. You're just letting that go, the spiritual baggage that you have created, the drama around that discontent or that upset that you have, whatever it may be. You know, when you let that go, you release yourself, you know, from the ball and chain that is keeping you down in holding a grudge. So forgiveness is not for them, it's for you. And I believe that it's extremely important and powerful to forgive. Forgive, what does it mean? To give up. You know, give up a grudge, give up discontent, disdain, give up a pet peeve. Just give it up. You know, when you do, you become free and you're released from the shackles of that spiritual binding that's keeping you down, and you can now grow again.
Do you experience service to others as a source of joy?
It's a source of love. Giving to others is the greatest source of love in the universe. There's no other word for it. It's not like, it's not respect, it's not admiration. It is love. And I know by serving others, I take my mind off of myself, which feeds my humility, which is nice, because that's one of my goals. And it takes my focus away from me, and I focus on me enough. Believe me, I'm all I think about sometimes. So I think giving is not only a positive force, you know, in life and within universal laws, but I think it's why people teach, because in giving there's a sense of joy that comes up because you're willing to do it. At least I am. I'm willing to do it for its own sake. I mean, if I could, I would teach forever for free. You know, if there was no capitalistic basis for livelihood, if abundance a lot of times was not measured by personal wealth, in the form of money, then I would teach for free. You know what? I often do. But the fact is, I also have boundaries with what I teach, and I'm seeking the truth in marketing. And with my followers, students, colleagues, who are typically business people, I'm a business-to-business teacher. I do love to teach because it keeps me sharp, it gives me feedback, and it holds me, I get acknowledgement for it too. I think I'm pretty good at it, and I'm wired for acknowledgement like anybody else. And so in teaching, when someone says, wow, that really made a big difference, sometimes I chase that feeling, De Beers, the diamond cutting company and the diamond brokers, the biggest in the world, I think they're in England still, they did millions of dollars worth of research, and they said, why do men buy diamonds? Why do they buy diamonds? Why do men buy diamond rings for women? Well, it's not for the carat size. It's not for clarity of the diamond. It's not even for the color of how good the color of the stone is. They buy diamonds for the look on her face when she opens the black velvet box. That's why they buy. I think I teach for the look on their faces when they get it. So I think that's the joy I get when I see the lights come on. That it rivals any feeling I can ever generate for myself, or that people can give me.
What place does the power of prayer have in your life?
Well, prayer is misunderstood, I think, often because it's deemed as religious. To me, a prayer is an affirmation or a declaration. A prayer is a personal self-talk that, I can make it, or settle down, or calm down, or this is going to work, okay? So prayer has a huge impact. Now, from a spiritual or religious point of view, I think prayer is a way to redirect energy in a positive light toward giving and towards contribution. So I think it has a huge place in people's lives, and if more people do it, I think it would be a little easier to live.
Yeah. How important is it to maintain a sense of humor in the face of serious difficulties? Well,
there's an old adage, and I think it comes from the Arabic traditions. Habib Bourguiba, I think, was the name of the person who quoted this. Happy is he who can laugh at himself. He will never cease to be amused. I think humor is huge. I think you can laugh your way out of sickness. I know, and I've read, I think Norman Cousins, laughed himself or humored himself out of cancer. Yeah. People have lived longer because of, humor. So I think it sends these neurological electronic impulses through your body and your nervous system that things are good. There's hope. And I think it causes people to live longer. So I think based on that, if you buy into that, it plays a huge role.
Are there any other heroes in your life that you haven't mentioned so far?
Yes, there are hundreds of them, and we don't have time to cover any of them. You're one of my heroes for putting this together.
Well, thank you. How do heroes make a positive difference in the life of young people?
They're good role models. Young people need role models. It's no question to me why adults take paths of destruction. It starts with their parents. It starts by what they observe. If not their parents, then what they see in school. And it's nobody's fault. It's what they observe. When a child observes something, I firmly believe they accept it as true. And they don't have the mental apparatus to judge it. Is this good or bad, or is this true or false? They just accept it. They buy it. Let's say, for example, you're in the basement of your home, and you're watching your father cut some wood for a Cub Scout race. They have these little derbies, where they have the blocks of wood and you make cars out of them, and then the fastest car wins. You put a little weight on the wooden car, and it goes down the little chute, and I forget what they call it, but it's
soapbox derbies.
Yeah, the whatever derby it is, right? So let's say you're watching your father with a hacksaw, cut off some wood, and all of a sudden the hacksaw slips and digs into his thigh, and his thigh starts bleeding, and then you as a child, you could be male or female, doesn't matter. You say, "Dad, didn't that hurt?" And Dad says, "Yes, it did. Yes, it did hurt." And say, well, why aren't you crying? He says, that's because men don't cry. Mm-hmm. Now, he may not have meant anything from that. However, you may buy it for the rest of your life that men don't cry. And if you're a woman, you find a man to marry who never cries. If you're a man, you don't cry for the rest of your life because men don't cry, because you looked up to that man. And that man meant nothing by it when he said it. Mm-hmm. But bottom line is, you bought into it. So haphazardly, we get these stimuli from others and from situations, and role models can shatter those things. I mean, why do people go to therapy? If they go to therapy to undo or unring the bell that was rung in childhood, something happened, between ages, 3 to 7. I know for a fact, and this has been done over and over and over again, the greatest producers, the top producers of the world, whether it's a Steven Spielberg, whether it's a Steve Jobs, whether it's a Oprah Winfrey or Tiger Woods, any top producer, pick one, doesn't matter. Producer as in producing results. In their lives between the ages of 3 and 7, and this is documented, they had some adult figure. It could have been a stepfather, it could have been a father, a mother, an uncle, an aunt, a grandfather, whomever, but some parental figure who gave them blind encouragement. So they came up to them and said, hey, I want to be a fireman. And then that person said, honey, you can do anything you want if you put your mind to it. Mm-hmm. So I took that piece of evidence. I mean, after, let's say the person is, the kid grows up to be 12 and says, Mom, let's say it's a girl. Mom, when I grow up, I want to be a stripper. Mm-hmm. So at that point, you can say, honey, maybe you ought to consider something else. How about waiting tables, right? So after, they get to a certain age, it's okay, to change the encouragement and lead them down a path that's a little bit more supportive. But between the ages of 3 to 7, blind encouragement is a good thing, I believe. So if you ask my son Gabriel, and Brianna is not old enough at the time of this recording, but she will say the same thing, I'll say, Gabriel, you can do anything you want, right? He says, yep. He says, I ask him, what do you have to do? He says, just put my mind to it. Mm-hmm. So I've programmed him to know that he can do anything he wants if he just puts his mind to it. Mm-hmm. All right?
Yeah. Now,
if he says that he wants to be a bungee cord instructor at age 12, I'm going to say, Gabriel, I want you around a little bit. I think it's a great profession. Can we look at something else? So, I think between ages 4 to 7, 3 to 7 are critical, and people just take those ages for granted sometimes because we're living life. And I've been lucky enough to be a teacher and a parent at the same time, and it's given me the ability to look at how my kids are growing up and what kind of impact I can have on them, to be a hero to them.
Yeah. Are there any heroes in society today that aren't getting the recognition they deserve?
Yeah, I think most heroes don't. I think there's an anonymous mother somewhere in Marin County who's not getting the recognition she deserves. I think there's a politician who's honest and has always been on the straight and narrow that hasn't gotten recognition. I think there's a governor out there or a mayor who hasn't gotten recognition. There's a prime minister who has saved lives in his country or her country, hasn't gotten recognition. And the reason we don't know who they are is because they haven't gotten recognition. There are leaders from behind, heroes from behind. They're anonymous, and that's how we started this interview.
Mm-hmm. Well, how do people actually become heroes?
I think they are heroes long before they're labeled as such. I think it starts by knowing that you're a hero to yourself. Mother Teresa was a hero long before she got any acknowledgement. Mm-hmm. She helped a lot of people, assisted them to transform their lives from adversity to at least, living and breathing. That was her mission. So it wasn't a matter of curing disease. It was a matter of less disease-ridden, children and people in that part of the world. So I think you got to be a hero to yourself first, and then you can be acknowledged as a hero to others.
Mm-hmm. How does it feel to be recognized as an internet hero?
Well, it's only as good as the people who are recognizing me. You recognize me as such. That makes me feel good, and I feel edified. So it feels very good.
Well, why do you think you were recognized as a hero?
I think I demonstrated to you heroism. I think I demonstrated a certain level of greatness, which instead of just talking about it, I demonstrated it to you. You've taken pictures of me over the years. You've read my materials. You've purchased my materials. we've gotten to know each other over time, and you've seen a certain level of consistency and predictability, and I think that got you to trust me as I trust you to regard each other as heroes.
Mm-hmm. Well, do you think
wait a minute. Is that true?
Well, absolutely.
Okay.
It's true.
I just want to confirm it with you because I just want to make sure.
Well, you forgot about generosity.
Well, that does help. The challenge with generosity I have is usually it's conditional. Mm-hmm. You know, you give, and I'm speaking on my behalf. And then when I don't get back, I go, darn it, he's not recognizing me. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's where humility comes in. Now, you give, and I don't sense that you expect something in return. This interview took a long time to initiate, probably over a year.
Yeah.
And it was canceled at least 3 or 4 times because of my schedule, but you patiently gave, and now I'm trying to hit one out of the park for you.
Yeah, well, I really appreciate that, Alex.
My pleasure.
How are you making the world a better place?
By conducting interviews like this and speaking my mind. I don't typically part the curtain as much as I have or leave myself as vulnerable as I have during this call. This is just as much as it for me as it is for anyone else listening, and I hope I've touched someone. If I'm touching you and you're listening right now, I hope that you nod yes. And if we've created any feelings of joy or love, I hope you're nodding yes as well. So I think those are the ways that we make a difference.
Do you have any good solutions for the problems facing society, especially racism, child and spousal abuse, and violence among young people?
There's only one solution, and that is do your part by being the best you can be. Rather than looking at the problem as outside of yourself, look at what part of that problem do you own, and then do something about it from your own perspective rather than whining or complaining about it. Start with yourself. Start at point A. Know where you are. Acknowledge where you are. If you're noticing that problem, there's a part of that problem in you. If you're fighting prejudice, if you're fighting racism, there is a part of that in you. You don't know where it is, but it's in you somewhere, or it's in your family. Otherwise, you wouldn't recognize it. So first, do your best to remedy and solve that problem, and then you can start on others. Because if you come out squeaky clean first and you demonstrate greatness, instead of just talking about it or complaining about it, you will be a lot more effective.
So you think that the things that we dislike the most are difficulties that we're facing within our own selves?
Yeah, I think that we have it within us and we have to overcome it. That's why we're facing those things. It's a projection. You know, when someone complains, like, I don't trust that person who's making that claim does not trust themselves in some way, because otherwise that would have never come into consciousness. It's within them. I firmly believe that to be true, and it has been proven psychologically to be true, both on a spiritual and physical level. So I would firmly not only believe, but acknowledge that if you dislike someone, find out what part of that person is in you, because you are disliking yourself as a result of that. We're connected, you know. If you have a problem with something or someone, find out what part of that is in you before you start solving the problem outside of you. If you do that, and if everyone did that, wouldn't the world become a better place?
Boy, it sure would, wouldn't it? Well, if you had 3 wishes for your life in the world that would instantly come true, what would they be?
Wish number 1 would be to live to 200 years so I could make a much bigger difference. And to live, wish number 2 would be to have my family live as long as I did so I can enjoy them. And wish number 3 was to have an unlimited number of wishes.
Ah, there you go. Now that's a good 3rd one.
I'm a marketer. What can I tell you?
Well, what do you think about the In Search of Heroes program and its impact on youth, parents, and business people?
For those who want to have it impact them, I think it's fantastic. For those who haven't recognized it yet, I trust you will do your best to put it in front of them so that they recognize it. So if that part of us recognizes the greatness of this program, we will embrace it and hopefully spread the word.
Mm-hmm. Well, what are the things parents can do that will help their children realize that they too can be heroes and make a positive impact on the lives of others?
For parents to be good examples, that's the single greatest thing they could do. In other words, don't give reprimands if you're guilty of the same thing that you're reprimanding. Mm-hmm. You know, it happens all the time. If a child is misbehaving because they're throwing a temper tantrum, and a parent gets upset about that, yet that same parent throws a temper tantrum when their spouse comes home late, or if they don't have date night or whatever else, that happens all the time. You know, we're all hypocrites in our pleasures sometimes. So the best way for a parent to do their part is to be a good example.
Yeah,
as a parent, that's what I've found.
Mm-hmm. Well, Alex, I really appreciate your time in answering these questions from your heart. Is there any parting thought that you'd like to leave with everybody listening?
The only parting thought is this, is greatness and heroism is to be demonstrated. It's not to be talked about. It is admired most when it is demonstrated. So, if you demonstrate greatness, then you will make a difference. And that's what I attempt to do. I try to demonstrate as much greatness as possible, such as shutting off my mobile phone, which I thought I shut it off just a minute ago.
Well,
this was a great interview. I love this. It was real time. It's like I feel like I'm naked. All these things are happening around me, from call waiting to cell phones I thought I turned off.
Well, you know, life has a certain amount of humor to it.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate you bearing your soul and showing us that the Alex Mandossian that we all know and love is human also.
Well, it's the only Alex I know, so I appreciate going through this process, and we will talk soon.
Okay. Thanks again, Alex. I appreciate it.
You bet.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.